Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Well, we're here again today, just you and I. Every few months, I like to come to the microphone alone and just review some thoughts that I have with events that are going on in the world. And this is one of them. As you know, I'm sure most people are aware that there was an attack on Israel this week, an air attack of almost 300 missiles and drones shot at Israel or fired at Israel from Iran. And not one of them caused any serious damage to the nation of Israel. That's a credit, I think, to the defense system that the Israeli people have, their instant response to protect themselves and defend themselves against atrocities, which seem to be happening more and more. It also is a credit, I think, to the American ingenuity and the capability of creating the types of missile defense and defense systems that Israel put into place this week. They were provided through the American people, through the taxpayer money in the United States. They were provided through current and previous administrations, mostly previous administrations. This administration, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but this administration seems to be sitting on a fence. One day it's pro-Israel, one day it's not pro-Israel. One day they're telling Israel that they have the right to defend themselves under attack. The next day they're telling them to stop short of completing that mission. It's rather a strange series of events that go on in this world. Much of it steeped with the far left's support of the Islamic terrorist attackers. And many of the progressives and Democrats in the United States, some in the government of the United States, favoring the left side because of what it means to their populace, their agendas, and what it means to their direction at globalizing the world. Well, I think that it's become more and more of an issue that we must stand and talk about. Anti-Semitism is on the rise once again in an ugly, ugly way throughout the United States. Just this week, the president of Columbia University was brought to task by the Senate and who inquired how they could permit such anti-Semitism and demonstrations to exist in Columbia. And they virtually turned a blind eye to it, said that they don't believe any such situation is occurring. And yet it is. It's happening all across the nation in universities and in streets, demonstrating against the United States involvement with the defense of Israel this week with the air defense programs. Many of those rockets and drones were shot down by U.S. personnel aircraft. And that's a tribute to our government to do that. But it's not going unnoticed by the left-wing press. It's not going unnoticed in demonstrations. There's been blockages of passageways and bridges in all the major cities throughout the United States in the day following the defense of Israel. The Golden Gate Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, across Chicago, all over the United States. People going to the street and demonstrating, burning American flags, carrying flags in tribute to Hamas. And our policemen stand by aimlessly, doing what little they can, because in many of the democratic cities and states, they are controlled and unable to do the actions that are necessary to stop these demonstrators. And so it goes on. These are reminiscent of things that have happened in the past. Unfortunately, in the 1930s and 1940s, the world woke up too late to avoid a Holocaust, which is a despicable thing, killing millions and millions of people. And now we lead towards it again. We come to a place where people are allowed appeasement. They break the law, and we appease it. We give them appeasement. We allow them to get away with it. This is the United States of America. And somehow we have lost the values that are so tried and true and valuable to all of us. That's why they're values. They're so important to all of us who are American citizens. This country was founded on a Judeo-Christian foundation of faith, fairness, freedom, freedom for all. And yet we allow such situations to occur. I must have said on this telecast at least a dozen times, it's time to stand up, America. It's time to stand up and speak out against these horrible situations that are happening in the United States. We are still the shining light on the hill. We're still the nation everyone in the world wants to come to because of its advantages and its opportunities. 12 million people have come across our border in the last 3 years, mostly illegal, allowed by the Biden administration. But they came here supposedly for amnesty or freedom from oppression. And now it's clear that they've really come here for jobs. They've been told that there are jobs for plenty, and they come for jobs. Now, I don't agree with illegals getting jobs when American citizens don't have them. But I do believe that these people have a right to a pathway to freedom. But it has to be done in a legal fashion. We all are they all cast the prodigy of immigrants in this nation. This nation is built on immigration, but it has to be done legally and properly. People have to be vetted. The director of the FBI went on TV this past week and warned America that we're in a very dangerous place. There are tens of thousands of people who've come across this border that have not been vetted, and they pose a threat to the United States and its safety. All too often, we see things happen where attacks occur in malls and public places, and it's happened in Europe recently, and the director of the FBI has warned that it could happen here next. So we have to stay diligent and alert. But we're also supposed to recognize it's time for us to speak out. It's time for us to vote and vote properly. It's time for us to say, this is our nation, a free nation. There's no room in this nation for anti-Semitism. There's no room in this nation for anti-Christians. There's no room in this nation for hate and anti-blacks or anybody who hate and would attack another person. There's no room for that. This is a nation founded on freedom and the free pass of faith and religion. We must do something about it. It's time for us to speak up. And I keep speaking up. And every time I say these things and I post it on YouTube and I do one of these programs and then we repost them on Facebook, they shut me down. They shut me down because they say I'm breaking the rules. I don't know what rules I'm breaking. I'm just speaking the truth. I'm speaking out for honesty and decency. As you all know, I wrote a book a few years ago. This book is called To Every Page a Turning. And it's a transcript following my generation through a lifetime from the 1940s in New York throughout the paradigm shifts of the 20th century with various changes, political changes, technological changes, war, many wars, too many wars to talk about, but primarily the Vietnam War. But in here, chapter 16 of this book talks about an experience I had when I was privileged to be on hand in November of 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down. After years of oppression, the people rose up, tore down that wall, and came through to unify East and West Berlin for the first time, seeing family members and speaking and greeting people that they were unable to speak to for 60 years, 40 years. And it was an eye-inspiring thing for me to be there and see it, to be part of humanity in that way, to recognize that all our brothers and sisters on this earth have a right to freedom. We'll do what's necessary to attain that freedom. I started this by talking about a terrible attack on Israel. That's an attack on humanity. That's an attack on all of us. The attack that occurred last year in November when they attacked and killed so many people coming across the border, and Hamas was responsible for atrocities against people. They more than killed them. They slaughtered them and raped them. Horrible things, one human being to another. We cannot tolerate that. This world cannot survive with those kinds of things existing. And we can't turn a blind eye again. Appeasement led to the Holocaust in Europe with the deaths of millions of innocent people. We cannot accept appeasement again. We cannot accept a government that feeds money by the tens of billions of dollars to Iran to build up its own war machine, and by the same token say we are supportive of Israel. That cannot happen. We must put a stop to this. The Iranian government has made it very clear they are the source of danger in the Middle East, and primarily with a goal towards eliminating our Western culture, our American way of life, and the Israeli nation for all time. They want to wipe us all out. We cannot allow that. We have to stand for what's right and what's freedom in this nation. Our country says, one nation under God. We cannot say that we are under God and allow atrocities to some of God's people. We cannot stand by with a blind eye. Time to stand, time to write, time to speak out, time to vote. We do nothing else. We must vote and demand a free, legal election. We must vote. So I just quoted a little passage in this book. It's chapter 16. I suggest you read it. It's full of emotion, full of firsthand experiencing, witnessing people breaking through the wall, kissing the floor, hugging one another, East German guards throwing down their weapons and coming through to West Germany, to West Berlin. It was an amazing sight to see. A place where humanity reached out, brother to brother, to find freedom and to find peace. So I tell you that we do these shows every week, as you know. Some of them have, most of them have guests on. Most of them have a more determined storyline. This is just the ranting and raving of an 82-year-old man who knows that there's a better world out there than we seem to be leading away from it. We have to come back to what's real, what's right. We have to tell everyone we know that we stand not only for Israel, we stand for freedom. We stand for God's gospel of love one another as He loved us. He tells us to go forth and love each other. Love thy neighbor as yourself. And whatever you do for the least of your brothers, so you do unto him. So this is my short, brief comment for today. I hope it's meaningful to you. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, make your comments. If you don't agree with me, you have a right to write in and make your comments known. If you want to be heard in an opposite discourse and you'd like to come on the show, let me know. We'll arrange for you to have your voice heard. This is a free show in a free nation. We have no sponsors to worry about. The only sponsor to this show is the proceeds from this book. No one else pays for it. So I encourage you, as I tell you every week, everybody has their own story. I know you have your own story. And no one can tell it like you can. Write it down. Tell it to friends and neighbors and loved ones before it's too late. Because when it's too late, all that wisdom is lost to the world. So go out today, grab somebody you know, give them a big bear hug, and tell them you love them. Because it may be the only time they hear those words. Tell them you love them, and you're quite sure God loves them too. Have a wonderful day. That's my comments for today. God bless.